Welcome to my kitchen. Well, this is the recipe that makes it officially the holiday season for me. Pumpkin bread. Once this comes out, it means that the house is going to smell good, those family feelings are going to come back, and all those great memories. It's a simple recipe. Probably have most of the stuff in your pantry already, and especially this time of year, pumpkin's usually on sale. And I do use the canned pumpkin because it does make things a lot easier. And you can whip this up anytime if you have that in your pantry. This is a great gift to give, a last minute to take somewhere as a hostess gift or whatever you want to do with it. I mean, it's even a great snack for those late nights after present wrapping. It starts out real basic. Get your dry ingredients into the bowl. Got your flour, your good old pumpkin spice, baking soda and your baking powder and your salt, which are going to give it its nice texture that it has. And it's a very tender bread. It really is perfect with just plain being toast, put anything on top of it. But this is where you want to make sure that your technique is really good because it is a simple recipe. So once you get everything in, you're going to want to give it a good whisk. Now, you can also sift this with a sifter if you have one. I prefer to use the whisk just because it's one less thing to clean up. And it does do exactly the same thing. What you want to do is you want to get everything combined and evenly distributed in the flour. And you want to get some air in there. And basically that's what this is doing. So you get all those spices mixed up in there, get some air in there, break up any lumps in the flour that would be in there. And then the rest of the recipe is pretty basic. You got your butter, your sugar, your eggs, vanilla, pumpkin. It's pretty basic. And then you want to get it all mixed up. I do use an electric mixer for this. I guess you could do it by hand if you wanted to, but you want to make sure that you get everything evenly combined and a lot of air in there because that's what's going to make it tender. Remember to crack your eggs on the counter, not on the side of the bowl, because if you crack them on the counter, it makes the pieces not fall apart as much. You don't get them shattered, so you're less likely to get an eggshell in your batter. And the pumpkin that didn't want to come out of the measuring cup. And the original recipe that I used did not call for vanilla, but I find that it just adds that little extra depth to the recipe, so I added it in. Now we're going to get that mixed up. Like I said, this doesn't take any more than about 15 minutes to get together. And it's a great last minute if you need something as a gift or whatever. But you want to make sure that everything is well combined. The butter's all mixed up and evenly distributed. The softer your butter you start with, the easier it is too. Get that all mixed together. Scrape down the bowl. Like I said, technique is important with this one. Even though it's a basic recipe, you want to make sure that you have good technique. This is a great one for beginners. Get that all mixed up. And you'll notice the color will start to change a little bit. And then when we get ready to add the flour in, I do like to do it in stages because it makes it easier to get things combined. And I do it in 3 different stages. You don't have to measure anything, just eyeball it. Put a little bit in, mix a little bit. This is just a great recipe. It smells so good when it's cooking. And I've been making this recipe for 30 years. I can't believe it. I found it in one of those supermarket cookbooks. I've given it to so many people and just have gotten so many compliments with it. It's really a great recipe. Put the rest of our flour in there, a little bit at a time. But if you'll notice, it's starting to change color. And this is how you get your nice tender bread, is by just taking your time. It goes quick, but you need to take your time, do your steps. And I also like to, once we get all the flour in there, I like to bake it in a dish that has been greased with vegetable shortening. I don't like to use cooking spray. I've found that they do have a tendency to make your cookware have this like gummy film to it. Not sure exactly why, but I don't like that. It's hard to get off. It makes your cookware look dirty. So I just use vegetable shortening. I'm using a glass loaf pan for this one. You can also use mini loaf pans. You get 3 mini loaves out of this recipe, but I'm just going to make one big one. This one's for me. I'm going to cut it up and put it in the freezer. It freezes really well too. And cut it up and slice it before you put it in the freezer, and then you can have it whenever you want it. And it's nice and fresh. And yes, I take time to scrape the beaters off. Thanks, Mom. My kids never liked the fact that I could get everything off the beaters. But we get everything off of there. I don't like to waste things. I like to scrape the bowl out really well, and it takes an extra couple of seconds. Get them all cleaned off. And then I also like to give it just one more scrape around the edge of the bowl to make sure that all the flour is mixed in. And then you can see if you've missed anything in there. And if you have, you can just give it a stir with the spatula to make sure everything's all combined. You don't have any flours pockets or anything. That's another reason that it's nice to put your spices in with your flour, because it makes sure it gets evenly distributed. Here I am. Just make sure that you get it all in the corners really well. Like I said, it just takes a couple more seconds to do this. It's not a big deal. And I think in the long run, you'll find that your baking dishes look so much nicer. Get that done. And it's just a little bit of vegetable shortening with paper towel. And this is a regular size loaf. I think they are 5 by 8, something like that is the exact size. And it cooks for 45 minutes to 55 minutes in a 350-degree oven. And like I said, it makes the house smell wonderful when it's cooking. Try to get everything out of that bowl, not waste it. You want to get it in your pan and just give it a spread it out a little bit, get it into the corners. You want to make sure that it's as even as possible so it cooks properly. It does have a nice rise on it because of the baking powder and the baking soda and the salt. All 3 of them make it rise. And there we go. Get that in there. And there it is out of the oven. I would let it cool in the pan for at least 15 minutes. It'll make it easier when you get it out. You run the knife along. It should pull away from the sides of the pan while it's cooking, but the knife just gives it a little extra help. And there it comes out. Perfect. And that's that vegetable shortening. Works just as well, if not better, than the cooking spray. And then you want it to cool completely before you slice it. You slice it when it's hot, or if it's not cooled enough, it will just crumble and make a mess. And I like to use a serrated knife. I sort of, when I'm going to slice the whole thing, sort of eyeball it to make sure the slices are all the same size. And we just run the knife down. Take your time. I think I got 10 slices out of this loaf. Makes a good breakfast. Some peanut butter. Or you can serve it just plain with a cup of tea for a snack. But it's so nice. And the more it sits, it gets moister and moister. I love it with butter. And I put a special treat on there. I'd made some cranberry sauce. Put some cranberry sauce on there. And that just sort of, that makes it almost like a dessert. But it's just so good. And definitely signifies that it's the holiday season for me. I hope you like this recipe. I hope you give it a try. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.